Hey, welcome to the Japanese writing systems Hiragana, my Hiragana course to help you learn the Hiragana characters. And basically, before we start learning the Hiragana, I want to give you a small introduction how this course works and which chapters you will have while you do this course, or which stations you will have among your learning journey of Hiragana. So basically, if you never heard anything about Japanese language, Hiragana is one of the three main writing systems of Japanese language. And now you will maybe ask something like, three? Because the Japanese writing system is not just one alphabet, like we're used in English language or German language, for example, or the most languages on the world. They have three writing systems: the hiragana, the katakana, and the kanji. And in this course, we will, of course, look at the hiragana, but in my opinion, to understand what the hiragana are and how to use them, you should understand in general which role they have or which part they play in the system of those three writing systems. So the introduction of this course will briefly go about hiragana, katakana, and kanji, explain you what they are, how they're used, and for which purpose they're used. So I would highly advise you to first watch the first chapter of this course, the introduction. After this, we will talk about the romaji. And now you will maybe think like, but Victor, you just said there are three writing systems. What are the romaji? And basically, you can say there's a hidden fourth writing system in Japanese language, and it is called the romaji. If you want to put it in other words, it's the romanization of the Japanese alphabet. So for foreigners, basically, to make it easier to understand, there's an alphabet version, let's say it like this, for the Japanese writing systems. And basically, many questions will pop up like, why are we just not using the romanization for the Japanese language? Or why do we even need three writing systems? For these questions, keep them in mind for reading the introduction part of this course. Like I said, in the second part, we will briefly go about the romaji to kind of give you a slight introduction into the hiragana. And after this, you will start to learn and write the hiragana. I will try to give you an explanation of every hiragana that is there, the 46 basic hiragana. And also, I will give you basic words that you will learn along learning the hiragana. So you'll also start to get some vocabulary while learning them. Also, I will give you some mnemonics. So mnemonics are some like visual, let's say, helpers. They will help you to kind of visualize the hiragana and keep them better in your brain. And for me, the most important part, and there are also some studies on this, is that if you want to keep what you learn, you should invest different brain areas. And basically, when you learn the hiragana, I would always advise you, while you do the course, to write them down. While you write them, of course, look at them. So you have the visual part too. Speak them. So you have the speaking part too. And also listen to it while you speak it. By investing many different areas of your brain, it will be easier for you to remember. And like I said, also, while you learn them, you can use the mnemonics I prepared to remember them. But I would highly advise you to connect the information that you have, that I give you, to also think more about it and try to connect it with your own information. So if you see a hiragana, for example, then you can say something like, it kind of looks like this, or it maybe looks like this, and so on. Or maybe you can say, this part looks like a belly, or this part looks like something else, or maybe use your own way of thinking about it. So in this course, it is an interactive course, so it depends highly on you too, how much you invest yourself in the knowledge I present to you. And like I said, there will be exercise sections. So after the introduction and the romaji section, there will be 3 sections where we will cover all the basic hiragana. And it will kind of look like this. Print them out or do them on a tablet. If you don't have the opportunity to print them out or write it with a pen on a tablet, then at least take a sheet of paper and write it on there. And to also give you some kind of, let's say, goodie from the course, I also created this cheat sheet. You can download them when you start the course, because in this cheat sheet also you can input the hiragana after you learned them. So after I explained to you something about the hiragana, you can input the hiragana there or write it down there. And when you maybe forget the hiragana one day, you can just take a look in the cheat sheet and then will be like, it was this hiragana. So this is what the cheat sheet was made for. Then you will have like a short test. So, well, a test sounds a bit too serious, but just a way to prove yourself if you learned enough. So I would advise you to, after you learned the hiragana, Take some time to really get used to them. I also created some decks for you to learn the hiragana. And after you feel like, you kind of know those hiragana, then you can take the test, and it is kind of like a mid-course test where you can prove if what you learned actually sticks. And then you will think, okay, the course is over, right? But usually we say that there are 46 basic hiragana, but there are also hiragana combinations. So you can combine two hiragana and it will create a, let's say, similar hiragana, but it will still be a new hiragana. And the next two sections will be on modifications. So how you can create the advanced hiragana. After this, you will also have a listening exercises with native speaker audio also, to be sure that you have the pronunciation right and also be sure that you have the listening right. Because if you hear someone talking Japanese, then by knowing the sounds of the hiragana, you should already understand which words they're talking. And after you did the listening exercises, there will be a final test where you can see how much the information that you learned in the course sticks. And you can do the test as many times as you want. It will also be randomized, that you will keep the knowledge that you learned. So I hope you're eager to learn Japanese, and for the introduction part, this is everything you need to know about the course. If you have any questions, just write me an email. Also, if you bought the course, you have an option at the end of the course to also upload your exercise sheets. So if you want them to be corrected, I mean you paid money for it, then I would advise you to put them into a PDF file and send them. And then I will receive them, will correct them for you, give you some advices on how to write certain hiragana or which parts you made some mistakes, and you will get an email. では、始めましょうか。So let's start with the first hiragana. So like you saw before in the introduction, basically the hiragana consists of the mix between vocals and consonants. So you have the vocals, a, I, U, E, O, and you have the consonants, like K for example, or S. And after I will showcase you the first 5 vocals, you will mix the vocals with some consonants. So the vocals with the K row will be ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. With the S row, sa, shi, su, se, so, and so on. And while I talk to you about the hiragana, I will not mention every information about them. If you want to know more about them, you can just look in the Excel sheet I have or the PDF about more information on how to memorize the hiragana, for example, or how to write them. Like you heard in the course before, there are also 3 stroke types. They're the tome, harai, and hane. And basically the tome stroke type is the one where you just stop when you write the hiragana. The hane stroke type is where you have like a jump. And the harai stroke type is just where it gets more thin after you write. So you just slowly take away your pen from the paper. And for this course, of course, because it is a hiragana complete course, I also wanted to include this information. If you want to write the hiragana perfectly, then you can take a look in the sheet. And there I listed the stroke types by the stroke number after you write them. But in general, I can tell you from my opinion, and maybe every Japanese teacher will kind of scold me for this, it is not that important actually. If you want them to look really good and beautiful, if you really want to invest the time for it, you can do it. And even I sometimes, after learning 4 years Japanese, don't always do every stroke type the right way. Just do it as you like it. At the end, it's not that crucial thing, but it is a nice thing to have. So let's start with the first hiragana. We will start with A. And in Japanese, you will say A. And to kind of remember the pronunciation, you can remember it at the A in car. So if you think about car, ka, ka, and A in this case is the A of the car. A word that you can combine with this hiragana will be ame. As you saw in the introduction before, basically ame can have different meanings, right? Depending on the kanji that is used for the hiragana, like I explained to you before, ame can mean rain or candy. And when you read a book, for example, it will be clearly to distinguish which one it is. If you just write it in hiragana, you can kind of also read the context. So if someone says, okay, today it is raining, then you will see, okay, it is the ame from the rain. And you must wonder, there must be some situations where the context isn't enough to understand. And for this, you have kind of pronunciation. So right now I teach you the pronunciation of every hiragana, but you have to imagine that inside a word, as you have it in English language 2 or German language 2, you have a stress accent, for example. So when you talk, you will talk something, you will stress certain parts of a word. So in the case of ame from before, every hiragana has a certain value of high or low, to say it pretty simple, because it is a beginner course. And for ame, for example, you can speak it in those two ways. So for example, if you want to say rain, you say ame. But if you want to say candy, you say ame. And if you closely hear at the difference, ame, ame, you can kind of see that there's a difference in the value or the height and low of that hiragana. And basically Japanese distinguish these words by their high and low values. So ame, for example, starts with a high a and the low me, like you can see here, ame. And if you take the candy, for example, you can see ame.